Trout routes combine stream maps and river data to help you find fishing access faster. Be confident on the water with fishing access points, real-time stream gauges, and public access, now brought to you by Onyx Maps. Whether you're looking for blue lines, gold medal rivers, or something new in your backyard, Trout Routes has the data to get you on the water fast. Destination Angler podcast listeners can try 1 month of Trout Routes Pro for free by clicking on the link in the episode description. Do what I do and put more access in your hands and explore the water you love with Trout Routes today. This week on the Destination Angler.
Most of the Columbia River fish have adaptations that are pretty interesting. You'll note that their bodies, and I've sent you pictures of them.
I saw them, yeah.
Their tails are enormous. Their bodies are incredibly hard. They're amazingly powerful fish. For a freshwater trout, there isn't a place I've ever been that has fish that powerful.
And that was Kelly Laatsch on the amazing rainbows from the Upper Columbia. Hey, if you like the show, please share it with a buddy. Welcome to the Destination Angler Podcast, the podcast for anglers who travel. And I'm your host, Steve Haigh. We go right to the source, the local guides and experts, to build your knowledge of top fishing locations around North America. It's a big world out there. Now go and fish it.
I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back soon.
Hey anglers, welcome back to another episode of the Destination Angler, brought to you by Got Fishing, crafting world-class fly fishing adventures especially designed to your level of experience and budget. By Adamsville Fishing Gear, the trusted source for quality fly fishing gear built to last at an affordable price. And by High and Dry Fishing, where science and performance meet. And by Trout Routes. Coming up on the Destination Angler, we journey to Craig, Montana and the world-renowned Missouri River with author and expert guide Micah Fields. And be sure to backcast to catch the last episode on the technical trout waters of the Truckee River with Mike Anderson, head guide of the Reno Fly Shop, who gives us a great rundown on the Truckee, along with the legendary Pyramid Lake. Home to a monster Lahontan cutthroat trout and one of the best shots at a 10-pound-plus trout in the lower 48. You won't want to miss these shows. Our destination is the massive and slightly terrifying Upper Columbia River in southeastern British Columbia, with football field-sized back eddies, hydraulics that'll flip drift boats, and rainbow trout that'll bend your rod like a bonefish. Joining me is veteran guide and fly tyer Kelly Laatsch, general manager of St. Mary's Angler, Cranbrook, BC, who spent 3 decades mastering these waters. Today, Kelly opens his playbook, sharing secrets on fly fishing extreme hydraulics, why single fly rigs is actually a good strategy, and pointers on guiding men versus women. We'll also touch on BC's legendary elk, St. Mary's and Skookumchuck rivers, and Argentina's trout-infested paradise. Stick around for a wild story of 400-pound sturgeon and an unforgettable first date. Check your backing and jump on the power drifter, folks, for this one, and let's dive in with Kelly. All right, folks, man, we've got a good show today. We are headed to the Kootenay region of southeastern British Columbia to check out the Upper Columbia River. And that is the Columbia River that flows all the way from the high peaks of BC through Washington State into the Pacific Ocean. You know, even in BC, man, it's a huge river. My guest, Kelly Laatsch, is going to tell us all about it, but I'm hearing flows in the spring of 140,000 CFS that slow down maybe a little bit in the summer when you fish it. I don't know. You have to tell me, Kelly, but
I will.
It's a little different than some of your mother's rivers here, you know? So we've got a great guest here to tell us all about it. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thanks. Great to be here, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, all the way from BC.
Yep.
So, Kelly, you and I met at the Denver show, and it's my understanding, Kelly, you and your wife run St. Mary's Angler in Cranbrook, BC for like 20 years now. Is that right?
26 years this year. Yeah, we've been at the fly game for a long, long time, and I've been guiding on the Columbia for 31 years. So
really?
Yeah.
Okay. You might know this river. I'm just
guessing. I have a pretty good understanding of it pretty well.
Yeah, I guess. So Kelly tells me he's a full-time guide in addition to general manager of this store he owns and this outfit he owns. Frequent speaker at clubs and hits all the shows, and he's appeared on some TV shows. He's fished all over the West, both in Canada and the U.S., some saltwater locations. He's an accomplished fly tyer with some top secret patterns that I don't think he's going to reveal, but I don't know. Nope, not going to do it.
Well,
okay.
I can reveal a couple things, but
A couple, all right, but not the top secret. I got you. No problem. But a lot of fly patterns he's invented, so we'll talk about that. And hey, and just as a sidebar, for you folks that are thinking about trying out Trout Routes, the app that has 50,000 trout streams all mapped out for in the U.S. here. If you're trying it out for the first time, you can go over to my website for a limited time, and you can get 3 months free by signing up on the Destination Angler podcast for my newsletter. So go over and check that out. And folks, you can support this podcast by rating it, subscribing, and share it with your buddies. All right. So Kelly, when we talked a month or so ago, no, I guess after the show, you had just got back from Argentina. How was Argentina?
That's kind of our, in the winter months, we do hosted trips. And so we've been going to Christmas Island and the Bahamas, and like all fly shops, pretty much all shops do that.
Yeah.
Argentina came up. I got introduced to the Gustavo from Set Fly Fishing, and they run and I'm not trying to plug their stuff. They just run such a wonderful program. They just run a really good program, and it makes it's so easy for us shop owners to do trips with them, and it worked out really well. So we've done 3 with them already, and we're going to continue doing so.
Very good. What's the fishing like?
As you can imagine, it's pretty good. Their variety of fishing is more their realm. It isn't that their fish are any bigger. I don't think they are. And I judge it based on the Columbia, because the Columbia's got some pretty big rainbows. And we've got rivers around us close in Alberta. The Bow in Calgary's got some really big brown trout too as well. But Argentina is just a different animal. There are so many pieces of water to fish. It's physically impossible to fish all of it. You just can't. I mean, you could spend months there and still be covering even just a portion of Patagonia. Patagonia is 600 miles long. That's what people don't realize. It's monstrous. So that was the big thing. The trout are good size. Everything was rainbows and browns were all averaging anywhere from 16 to 23 inches, which is very nice. I mean, very, very nice. One thing you have to be aware of, though, whether you go to Argentina or Chile, it's windy, and you got to come to terms with the wind. If you're scared to death of, like some fly fishermen are scared to death of wind, and they never should be, it's probably not your favorite place. But if you are not worried too much about a little bit of wind, and it's fantastic.
Well, how do you change your setup if on a windy day? You shorten your leader, for instance?
It's more about anglers than their casting. It always has floored me that how anglers, I can have a guy who's a great caster, and there'll be a puff of wind will happen, and he completely changes his casting stroke. And I'm just going, what the devil are you trying to do here? I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, you really only have to change. All you do is you have to apply a slight bit more power to your push stroke. But that's fundamentally all the changes in a casting in the wind. There's lots of things. Also, when the wind is blowing, typically fish are a little more gullible. If you can get that fly to settle down on the water, they're going to eat it, because a lot of things are being blown around. So it can be a real good time if you can just not dramatically change your casting stroke because there's a puff of wind.
Yeah. So is this treeless? Are you that far south?
No, it's a combination of both. This last trip we went to a spring creek.
Oh, cool.
I've never seen bigger trout in a creek that's 10 feet wide in my entire life. I can't even describe. Wow. The sad part is in some respects, they're unlandable. I mean, literally unlandable. You're throwing 4X tippets and beetle patterns to a 29-inch rainbow or a brown trout.
Yeah, good luck.
And good luck. you're really, it's a crapshoot. We had a few of our guys landed a few. I landed I got a 23-inch brown, beautiful brown. But again, it was because I just told the guide I'm putting rope on, and that's the end of it. I ran 1X and rammed it through the eye of a size 12 beetle, and
And he ate it.
with a loop connection on the eye. I perfection looped it just like a bonefish.
Yeah.
It's the only way I could hang on to him. I had to muscle him out from under a tree, so I straight lined him and pulled him, yarded his butt out from under the tree.
Wow.
Well, that's the kind of thing you have to do. You have to, and in Argentina, the guides won't think out of the box like that. You gotta come to terms with that side of it. They're great guides though. Boatmen, they're probably as good as any of the guides in North America for his boat skills. So yeah,
No kidding.
so super.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of guys tell me, you've got to go to Argentina. It's the best fishing in the world.
Well, it's just the diversity of it. It's really quite astounding. And everything that's flowing there has trout in it, which is pretty nice. And there's not many people. That's the other thing. I mean, it's reminiscent of our water and even less. Like we still have lots of folks around us, but our fishing is pretty uncrowded compared to most of the US, and Argentina is even less than us. So
Wow.
it's pretty
How
amazing.
about that? Well, let's talk about BC.
Sure.
Tell me about the Upper Columbia. It's a unique fishery and it's challenging. Why is that? What is it about the Columbia that gets you excited?
I guess maybe the best way to describe the Upper Columbia I think we have to do a little story and
Let's
explain to
do it.
you that there's some things that happened over time that created it. And so I'm going to explain that. So the Upper Columbia is what in Canada, we call the Upper Columbia up over here where I am in the East Kootenays. That's the actual headwaters at the start. But most Americans will think of the Upper Columbia as the water that flows from Lake Roosevelt upstream and goes up, that starts up in Canada. So a little lesson in geography, there's about 750 miles of water that's the Columbia River in the United States, and there's about 750 miles of the Columbia River that's in Canada.
Really?
Yeah. So it's almost dead even. The Columbia in Canada is joined by the Kootenay River at a town called Castlegar, BC. And Castlegar is part of that section. There's a tailwater section from Northport, Washington, right on the U.S. border, up to Castlegar, British Columbia. There's a dam there, and that's called Hugh Keenley Side. And that dam and that tailwater, that's about 36 miles of tailwater. And that's the water on the Columbia that I fish. It's got an average mean flow of, in the spring, it'll start at about 41,000 cubic feet per second. And by July, it's pushing, like right now, I think she's sitting at about, it's kind of low actually. It's sitting at about 120,000 right now.
120.
120,000 cubic feet per second.
Okay.
I know that's hard to fathom as not a lot, but I've seen it as high as 144,000. So that's when it's a fire breathing dragon then. So
we're July 10th and it's still at over 100,000.
Oh God, yeah. It popped 100,000 at probably a month ago.
And does it drop? Does it? I think you told me at one point.
It kind of slows back down again and goes down to about 41,000. 40. Lowest I saw it this last 2 years was probably about 38,000 was the lowest I've ever seen it. So it doesn't get very low. It's a big river.
It's all dam controlled. I mean, so they're releasing water for.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. So what took place on the Columbia is really interesting. The Columbia for the longest time is the whole section of the Columbia, particularly that stretch, is all part of the Columbia River Treaty with the United States. And that was instituted partially just because of, out of Ellensburg, Washington, it used to be just drought desert, right? It's the top end of the Sonoran Desert.
Yeah.
They couldn't, and the Columbia would go really, really low, and then it had massive flooding. They had all kinds of problems. So in the 1950s, they decided that they were going to control the water a bit better. but they were going to put in 1939, they actually built Grand Coulee Dam was built.
Okay.
And that started backing up the water. And the Canadian government at the time had voiced their concerns is that you were going to block 2 million salmon and steelhead and rainbows from coming up into Canada.
Right.
Well, that's not a good thing. So they started communications, the two countries, and by the 1940s, the Columbia River Treaty was agreed upon as a group, and then it was implemented. I forget the actual dates, but it was in the early 50s. They implemented it. And what it was is controlling a series of dams on both the Kootenay and the Columbia main stems and having those dams as water storage facilities to allow water to be governed going into the United States. And for that, the United States government was going to pay reparations for the loss of the salmon and steelhead. And they paid a fair amount of money. Those negotiations go on every 10 years. They have to renew. And we're in the midst of a renewal. As you can imagine, there's a little bit of turmoil. Politically, there's a little turmoil going on right now.
I'll bet. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on. It's turbulent as a fly fisherman. So that doesn't change, though. It doesn't change the way the flow dynamic runs. And what has happened is, so in 1939, when Grand Coulee got built, it fundamentally blocked 2 million salmon and steelhead from coming to Canada from the Columbia River drainage. Now, we used to have a run in 39. My grandfather was working at the smelter. There's a smelter in Trail, BC. That's an ore extraction facility, pretty famous one of the biggest in the world at that time, if not the biggest. And they would fish the river right there. And it was common in the month of June to catch a Chinook salmon somewhere between 30 and 50 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we had a run where they were called June hogs, and they were averaging everything from 30 to 50 pounds. Run was estimated somewhere between 30 and 50,000 fish. One of the biggest runs in the world.
Yeah.
And so that got blocked. So along with that were steelhead. And estimates have been that the steelhead population was anywhere as low as 10,000 to as much as 50. Who knows? Back in the 30s, they really didn't have a way of measuring the number of fish.
Yeah.
Last coffer dam went in on Grand Coulee Grand Coulee was proposed in 36. Construction started then, and it wasn't completed till the fall of 1939. They closed it off then, and estimates were they trapped, who knows, as many as 10 or 20,000 steelhead were trapped up, spawning. Same as the Chinook, were trapped up spawning. The Chinook were over long before then, but the steelhead were there.
Yeah.
The Columbia had already a healthy population of coastal red band rainbows, which were typical to the Columbia drainage, all of its existence. And those are ice age fish that were always there. Never was really stocked, not that we know of. There was a little bit of stocking by the Colville First Nations band in the 80s and the 90s, and we've seen no evidence of those fish working their way up into the upper Columbia. Like most of those were fin clipped, and you would have seen fin clipped fish, and I've never caught a fin clipped fish on the Columbia River.
Yeah.
So we don't think those fish made it. So what has happened is the Columbia is as much a product of the blockage, has created a group of fish that they have some steelhead lineage in them, along with rainbow lineage in them. And so these are the fish we have. They've lived a life, and this stretch from Hugh-Keneyside Dam down to Northport is almost identical flows of what it would have been long before the dams were ever built. And they manage it that way. They start the flows off usually in the winter months. They keep the flows relatively low, and then they start ramping them up in the spring to imitate runoff, the whole process of runoff. There's concessions made for those fish. So it's actually worked out really, really well. We still see some ramping, but we don't see the violent ramping that you would see on typical rivers. The Green in Utah gets some really, really wild ramping going on, and some other tailwaters where fish are not really considered part of the game, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what we catch. We catch rainbows. Small fish are 15, 16 inches. Big fish are 28, 29 inches.
Wow.
Big.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They fight shockingly. You can imagine in flow of this level, they're incredibly powerful. That's strong. Most of our clients say they're pretty much like hook and steelhead in any river. So they're a handful.
What's your rod setup? You using 8 weights or what are you throwing?
No, we're running 10-foot 6s and 10-7s. We like longer rods. We find they're a bit more powerful and a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
Better for castability. We fish a combination of streamers, a little bit of dry flies in the spring months. So we separate the seasons into 2 fundamental seasons that we fish it. We actually don't fish it much in the summer at all. That has a combination of more an issue of the way the fish get. So the fish in the spring months, maybe the best way to explain the Columbia is how the fish change throughout the season. And
Yeah.
it's quite unique. They start their season, you can fish the Columbia year round. It's an open fishery. It's not part of the class water system of BC. It has walleye in it that they stock down from Roosevelt. It has great white sturgeon in it. We've had a little bit of a pike problem, but the pike, they've got that pretty much under control now. We could talk more about that. But
Here's Brian Oakland, founder of Got Fishing.
There's really no reason for an angler not to use Got Fishing when everything we do for you is free. We have the best trips around the world. We only work with the best outfitters, and we're definitely going to get you the best deal and the best dates guaranteed. That's why we have clients come back time and time again. We have Don with us on this trip. This has been his 6th fishing adventure with Got Fishing, and I think if you asked him, it is because of all the little things. We don't tell people, we ask questions. What is it that you're looking for? What would be most important to you? Who's coming with you? What's your experience level? And really at the end of the day, what is the most important aspect of this experience that you're looking to take home? And then from there, we just marry them up with some of the best lodges, let them take a look at 2 or 3 different options and pick what's going to be best for them.
Well, there you have it, folks. A pretty good case for choosing Got Fishing for your next big adventure. So what are you waiting for? Give Brian a shout or visit gotfishing.com. Hey anglers, if you're on the hunt for fishing gear that's as tough as you are, look no further than Adams Built Fishing Gear. Since 2014, Adams Built has been the go-to choice for anglers who demand quality without breaking the bank. Their lineup of lightweight waders, high-quality nets, and meticulously designed fly boxes is second to none. But here's what really impressed me. Adams Built stands behind their products like no other. Every single item is guaranteed to last. Yep, you heard that right. And get this, Adams Built waders even come with a lifetime repair replace guarantee, with you only paying for shipping. Now that's a deal you can't beat. So why settle for gear that won't last? Make the smart choice and gear up with Adams Built Fishing Gear today. Ask your local dealer for Adams Built or visit www.adamsbuiltfishing.com and tell them Steve sent you from the Destination Angler podcast. You ever caught a sturgeon?
yeah, at the start, I was guiding sturgeon. In 1992, when I started my guiding company, I was guiding trout, sturgeon, all of it. So it was good.
Really?
Yeah, it was really good.
How do you catch a sturgeon? Give me the 2-minute tour on that.
Sturgeon are very interesting fish. If you go to the Fraser, they do a similar technique. Basically, what you do is you drop usually about anywhere from 5 ounces to 16-ounce lead ball down on the bottom. You have a T intersection up above. Hang a chunk of fish off the end of it and let it hang there.
Is that right?
Yep,
Okay.
That's it. Sit still and wait a second or two. They're about the softest take you'll ever see for a fish the size they are. They're
Wow.
very strange. They take a fly. They don't take a fly, although they are a predator. It's really fascinating about them. They're so interesting.
Huh.
But that's it.
Meat eaters.
Meat eaters.
Yeah.
They are a meat eater.
And they get to be how big?
Biggest ones in the Columbia, and we see them fairly often. 9 feet, 9.5,
There you go.
400
Oh my
pounds,
gosh.
about 400 pounders. Here's the fascinating thing. It's illegal to fish for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can you fish for bull trout up there?
There are no bull trout in the Columbia.
Oh, there isn't. Okay.
No, there are no bull trout. In the water I fish on our guiding season in the summer, over
Yeah.
here in the East Kootenays, a ton of bull trout everywhere.
Yeah. And it's legal to target them.
Oh, yeah, perfectly legal. Actually, that's one of the reasons everyone comes to the East Kootenays. A lot of fly fishermen come to target bull trout as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to a guy a couple of years ago. I did a show with a guy up in the Yukon, and he says not only does he target them, he eats them. In the U.S., for the most part, you can't target them, much less eat them. Who will
Right.
do that? But he's like, yeah, he's camping out, eats bull trout for dinner.
Well, bull trout populations, particularly bull trout populations in the East Kootenays, are incredibly healthy. We actually have a very healthy population, and there is a window of which you can keep a bull trout on the Kootenay River in our area in the East Kootenays. You're allowed to keep one, but it has to be over 75 centimeters, so it's got to be over 28 inches. So it's going to be a pretty big fish.
Yeah.
Most anglers don't keep them, though. Most don't do that.
Good.
Northern BC, though, there's a lot of bull trout. So,
Okay.
it's pretty common fish, right?
That says a lot about the clarity and how clean your water is.
Yeah, bull trout and mountain whitefish are a teller species for most streams. If you've got healthy populations, it usually means that you've got a pretty healthy system, right? There's not many of those in the United States. The Metolius River in Oregon is one that I know for sure. Some Washington streams also have still pretty good populations. The Methow, I believe, is a good population of bull trout.
Yeah.
So there's a few, but not many.
All right. So I interrupted you. What were you talking about?
Oh, Columbia.
Columbia.
Yeah.
Let's get back to that.
Yeah, she's a beast.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing I think about what happens to anglers when they try and come and fish that water, you take one look at it and your brain just goes, how in God's name am I going to fish this?
Yeah.
It's just so big until you start to understand it and figure out how these fish live their lives. Like, they don't station up on runs. They don't do that. They don't do that until the fall. So I was getting to the spring and the fall. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll talk more about the spring. Spring months, the river starts off in the spring. Fish like to live most of their life along the bank walls like normal stuff. Nothing really particular. The eddies are pretty big, but generally speaking, you can row down the bank walls and have pretty good success nymphing. You can throw streamers. They'll eat streamers. They'll eat nymphs. It's a tailwater. Tailwaters typically we're used to places where you got to use microscopic flies,
right.
Size 18 to 22s. If you go to a river like the San Juan in New Mexico, it's 26, some crazy. And in the Columbia, there's nothing, we don't tie anything smaller than a 16, ever.
Is that right?
Yeah. First off, you can't hang on to them. We've had our biggest problem in the Columbia is how can we tie a size 16 certain couple flies that catch them that they won't straighten out or break.
Yeah.
So really? That's a bigger problem for us is straightening of hooks and bigger.
Yeah. That'd be a good problem.
So that kind of tells you what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I'll say.
So, yeah. And so the spring starts off in April and early May. They haven't ramped the water up much. Usually sits at about 41,000 to 50. It'll move up. As the river starts moving up and they start ramping it up, water temperatures start coming up a little bit. Once water temperatures reach about 50 degrees and to 52 degrees, we start seeing basic fundamental hatches. We'll get some small stones, golden stones mostly, smaller. We see a caddis hatch. We also see a lot of population of midges, but not a midge like the size you're thinking. Not a little microscopic guy. Most of the size like a lake midge. Like they're bigger. So they're size 16.
16.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
So you can fish chironomids and things you'd never fish in a tailwater before would be fished there.
Huh.
So the eddies, that's the other thing. As the river goes up, by about mid-May, they've ramped the water up probably close to about 75,000, something like that. The fish start moving away from any bank walls and spend all their energy is in the back eddies.
The back eddies. Okay. What's a back eddy?
Well, a back eddy is you've ever been down a river and all of a sudden you've been able to pull over on the side and you could go back up river a little bit because there was an eddy that was formed on the side. Well,
Okay.
so in a normal river, like say the St. Mary River or the Elk that I'm on, or say you're on a nice river like the Gallatin or something like that, back eddy might be 20 feet long to 50 feet long, maybe. That'd be a good sized one, nice one, right? On the Columbia, a little one is about 150 yards long and about, 80 yards wide. That's a
Wow.
little one. That's not a big one. That's just one of the little guys.
Okay.
So you've got to understand the product of scale we're dealing with here. So it's a different
Wow.
animal, right? The trout, when they start moving into the eddies, they don't travel in the eddy like a normal trout. They don't station up anywhere. They actually travel more like bonefish, and they travel in pods, and they work on the premise that food is being pushed together where the join of the back eddy as it comes around it at the bottom end and then works its way back up and it bumps into the faster flow of the main river.
Yeah.
All the trout start feeding in those troughs in there. And they're up quite high in the column, usually up about somewhere between 6 and 10 feet up. All the food is in that column. And that's where those fish live.
Yeah.
So we start targeting those areas, and that's where you hook them.
Okay. And how deep is an eddy that's 150 yards long?
Well, that's another really interesting thing about the Columbia. It is quite deep in some spots and quite shallow in other spots. So the average mean depth, I would say, is probably across the board somewhere around 12 to 15 feet. But every eddy that the river flows into is the best way I can explain it. It's like a reverse waterfall. Most of the eddies are somewhere between 30. The shallowest ones are about 30 feet. The deepest one that we know of is about 120 feet.
Wow.
And they all average in there somewhere between 30 and 60 feet deep.
Okay.
But the trout are living, that's the magic of that river. The trout are all living in the top part of the column. They're not in the bottom of the river.
Yeah.
They don't live down there at all. So it's kind of fascinating.
I first came across liquid fly dip floatants years ago when guides were mixing their own brews with lighter fluid and mucilin wax. It worked, but you had to wonder, what's it doing to the river? Recently, I tried some store-bought brands. One left a white crust on my fly, another left an oil slick in the water. Not good. No way I'm using that stuff. Then I found High and Dry, and let me tell you, this stuff is a game changer. It's built by scientists who actually fly fish, and it shows. Your fly floats like a cork, looks natural, and it's 100% environmentally friendly. No film, no gunk, no gilt. And their floatants work in any condition, from blazing heat to freezing cold. In my opinion, these are the best performing, most innovative floatants on the market today, hands down. Check out the full lineup of liquid floatants, desiccants, and gels at highanddryfishingproducts.com. Your fly and the fish will thank you. Tell me about this hydraulic thing that goes on in these, because it's really unique, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unique, all right. It's and the only time I'll use a swear word, it's scary as hell is the best way to describe it. It's a thing and it's frightening. Typically, once the river reaches about 80,000 cubic feet per second, and once it starts pushing 100, that's when things can start getting a little dangerous and where. So every once in a while, we see guys showing up in a drift boat, and that's just absolutely the worst vessel you could ever bring on the Columbia River. Just don't even, for any of your listeners, no.
Don't do it. Why is that? Why is it so dangerous?
The eddies, typically anyone who knows and has run a drift, like we run rafts and drift boats on our business in the East Kootenays. Normal rivers, normal flow. It's not an issue. You can come over into a little back eddy, and there's what's called the cut line, which is the line between the fast water and then the soft pocket of the back eddy. Well, on a big eddy like that, the Columbia River has a mean average flow of somewhere between 9 and 12 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
Now, let me give you some perspective of that. The Grand Canyon, in some of its fastest water, goes as fast as almost 30. But the average mean flow on the Grand Canyon is somewhere around 12 to 14 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So the Columbia River flows at very fast rate.
Yeah, that's
it's
really
very
fast.
quick. So what happens is the hard line on the back eddies as this river gets bigger isn't just a hard line, it's a violent line. And if you come across it with a drift boat, it will flip you instantly.
Wow.
There's too much hydraulic pressure to allow the boat to stay up. And it won't. It just physically won't.
So you just avoid them then? I mean, do you go over
Yeah.
them in whatever boat you're in?
Well, we're running. When I sent you some of the pictures, you got pictures of our jet.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And so we
Thanks.
run custom built jet boats. This will be a little plug for one of my best friends, Rick. Rick Hedrick builds Rebel jet boats out of Cranbrook, BC. He builds literally the best jet boat I've ever seen in my life. And so,
Okay.
and I know that's a big statement, but if there's ever a human being that knows all about hydraulic and flow and how to handle big water, he builds jet boats for us. And our boats are built specifically. They're a hybrid. Most people know them as power drifters, but Rick's boats are built specifically for us on the Columbia. And so they're built a little different. And that's some of that stuff is trade secret amongst them about how we handle some of that hydraulics and that. And it's pretty amazing. Boats are big. They're 19 footers and we row them.
Oh, you do? Okay.
They're big, giant rowboats. They really are. So, yeah.
With an engine. So you said a reverse waterfall earlier. What do you mean by that?
Okay. So if you understand hydrodynamics in a lake, on a river, anytime water flows, everyone thinks that when a river flows along and all of a sudden goes into a nice deep hole. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you'll go into a deep hole, you'll look on the river and there's about downstream from it, a number of feet, there'll be this kind of boiling and upwelling. Well, what that is when water flows at high volume and then goes into a deeper area, the water actually drops. It drops dramatically and it drives itself right straight to the bottom and it bounces off the bottom and then shoots back up. And that's what causes that eddy formation that we know of. On the Columbia River, it's even more astute or more, you just see, oh my God, it's so pronounced. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So,
holy smokes.
So it's a little, what's the best way I can describe it? It's a little frightening. I mean, our clients who are with me, any new clients we have, we kind of warn them that it takes about 2 hours before you know how you have in the open ocean, you've been on a boat, you haven't gone on a boat a lot of times and you get in the open ocean, it gets a little rough and it's that uneasiness you feel about it. Yeah. It's the same thing on the Columbia. It's that same uneasiness. Even if you've been a drift boat guy for years, it's not the same animal. It really is. Oh my gosh. So it's fun. Yeah. Really fun.
Fun. What is that? So if the flow drops into the hole and then boils back up, what's it doing to the food? Like, where are the trout? How are they feeding in those
think about that. So if all the food is being trapped in the back eddy and all the food travels down, hits the bottom, and it scours the bottom. So any caddis pupa or any mayfly larva or mayflies that are released in the water, they will now be pulled up. So you wonder why the Columbia River, all the fish are feeding in the top 10 feet. It's because that's where all the food is being pushed to.
They don't need to go down there.
They don't have to be down there. There's no food down there. It's scoured. The bottoms of the river are constantly being scoured.
So in these back eddies, because, trout, I think a trout is just, kind of lazy. They're sitting next to a cheeseburger conveyor belt, but not on the conveyor belt, So, but in these back eddies, are they having to work real hard to stay in those, or how's that work?
No, because they travel with the back eddies. So they physically move. Most of the Columbia River fish have adaptations that are pretty interesting. You'll note that their bodies, and I've sent you pictures of them.
I saw them, yeah.
Their tails are enormous. Their bodies are incredibly hard. They're amazingly powerful fish. For a freshwater trout, there isn't a place I've ever been that has fish that powerful. Not rainbow trout.
Yeah.
And they have some of those same things in Argentina. They have some tailwaters, some big tailwaters that have exactly that same characteristic. incredibly hard fighting fish because they live in a violent water all their lives. And so they adapt. Their adaptations are very much that of a steelhead, right? That has had to work its life. They're not steelhead, they're trout, but there's no question, there's lineage there. There is no question.
Yeah, no kidding. What's the fight like when you hook one of these guys?
Well, it's really fascinating. Most guys who catch them for the first time, they'll hook an 18 or a 19, which is kind of we call those bread and butter. That's a bread and
Huh.
butter size, typical normal size, 18, 19 to 20-inch fish. They fight a lot like a small steelhead. It's not uncommon to have 5 jumps.
Yeah.
Then they'll peel off. You'll be in the backing. If you're in the main flow and they get into that main flow of the eddy, they're definitely into the backing almost immediately.
Yeah.
But then it's just a battle, and their ability to hold in water is really quite astounding. So they're really powerful.
Yeah.
It's not like landing a normal trout. Most guys usually go, it's a workout.
And you can get multiple of these a day then, huh? This isn't just like one or two typical days, what?
1 or 2? No, I think we're a little better than that.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 to
What's a
20.
typical day?
10 to 20 a guy. It's typical.
Wow. That's a good day on fish that size. That sounds pretty
No,
pretty
but
amazing.
the key is it's a lot of work. And what I find is a lot of our clients, it's one of these places very much like steelhead water. It starts to become an addiction because you're addicted to the fight and addicted to the power and addicted to everything about them. They're spectacularly beautiful.
So what are you throwing a indicator rig? How are you fishing for them?
Yeah, we fish indicator rigs in varying lengths. Some days they're as short as 2 feet. Some days they're as long as 10. Just
Okay.
depends on the days. As the water flows change, what's most complicated, and I guess what the most difficult part of the Columbia is as the water changes its depth throughout its spring rising season, the eddies change, and the structure of where the fish live changes, and you have to know it. Recreational boaters can catch fish in the Columbia. It isn't that it's the most, like they'll eat a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. It's just they're not going to have 20 fish days. They're just not
Yeah.
going to do that. Not a chance. It's just because they don't understand the dynamics of the water and how these fish live in that water. So,
Yeah. Right.
so we've learned it.
What kind of tippets are you using?
Rope. I just call it.
Yeah, is that
rope.
right? Like 0X?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're not tippet shy, it sounds like.
They're not tippet shy, but we're running, anytime we're nymphing, we're fluorocarbon. So it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, we run fluorocarbon a lot, really strong.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yep.
I read online that some of these back eddies or runs can be 2 miles long. Is that true?
I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. I'd say the
Okay.
average eddy in our section of the Columbia I'd say the average eddy's probably anywhere from 200 yards to 300 yards long, the eddy
Okay.
length of
Still.
itself. And then width can be, we have one eddy. And of course, we guides aren't real smart guys. We just call our biggest eddy, we call it Big Eddy.
Good
We're
name.
we're just not that smart. So Big Eddy is probably 400 yards across, and it's probably almost 400 yards to 500 yards long.
Could you spend all day in Big Eddy?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
do you like to move on? Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you know what you're doing, you could spend all day there. But problem with that eddy, when the water's up a lot, it has some crazy hydraulics. So the hydraulics on a really large eddy are like the end of a you know how a tornado touches down and then it moves and maybe it'll
Yeah.
touch down again? The tail of those hydraulics moves all the time. So the back end of the tail can get you if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful where you are in those eddies when they're big, when they get really big.
Okay. So the seasons, you spring and fall, like what months are you fishing the Columbia?
So we start usually April 1st, and we usually finish somewhere around June 15th. Partially that was because we come over to the East Kootenays, and that's when the East Kootenay water opens up for cutthroat trout and rainbows and bull trout.
Okay.
But the other reason we quit is the Columbia gets a hatch. It's the American granum that starts coming off, and it's an absolute blanket hatch. So what happens to the Columbia River fish, they become almost completely nocturnal. They're almost impossible to catch in the middle part of the day. And so for a guide, this starts becoming a real problem.
Yeah.
And we're not talking little hatches. We're talking a slick of dead caddis, an inch thick, 200 yards long.
Oh my gosh.
And once the blanket hatch is in place, you can't. The fish are up, dorsal fins. You'll see dorsal fins that are 4 inches tall, up just with mouths gorging back and forth. It's crazy. And because of that, they're so difficult to catch. So there's a window of about a 2-hour window every evening where they're completely pickable. But how can you guide 2 hours, right? I mean, it got really hard and difficult. When I started guiding, I was guiding full-time on the Columbia from 92 to 96. And in those years, I would start guiding at 5:30 in the morning. Once we got into June, late June, I'd start guiding at 5:30 in the morning, finish at 9. We'd go have breakfast. We'd go fish some small stream somewhere, come back at usually 1, sleep for a few hours, get back on the water at 5:30, 6, have dinner, lunch, and stay out till 11.
Okay, I read that a lot of the guides stay out really late. Why is that?
Well, they're trying to target, but they're on top of that hatch, and that hatch is, once that snowstorm starts, you're pissing in the wind. I'm sorry, you really are.
Is it because the trout just have a million of them? Why would they take your fly?
Absolutely. I mean, my answer to that hatch was a size 6 Royal Wolf.
Okay.
On the surface, dragged.
Drag it.
And because you got to catch their attention, and they're so fixated in the summer on that hatch, it's just ridiculous. And so unlike any other trout fishery, August is the worst month. Like literally, you can't have a worse month. The hatches are late, all of them, because it's too damn warm. Water isn't warm, but the hatches are late. There's a little bit of hopper action occasionally. Like you can occasionally get the odd day where a few fish have moved along some bank walls and you can catch them a bit in August, but it's not going to be consistent. Not enough value enough to go and make a trip out of it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you guys, luckily you have a lot of other places you can go.
Oh yeah. Like we have the whole East Kootenays in the middle of August is literally trout nirvana. So, with half.
You say East Kootenays.
Yeah. The East.
Are you talking about a mountain range? Are you talking about the Kootenay River?
No, I'm talking, we're on so in the summer months from June 15th to September 15th, basically, we are guiding on the elk and the St. Mary and the bull and the streams of the East Kootenays of British Columbia.
Okay.
And they butt up against the Rocky Mountains. And it's very much, that area of BC is very much like Montana, Helena. It's like butting up against the Yellowstone Park. So we have the same thing. We have a bunch of great rivers, lots of water, and excellent cutthroat fishing. All native West Slope cutthroats and bull trout.
Nice. I've heard some great things about all these rivers that you guys have on your website. St. Mary's, the elk. I did a show on the elk a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And the bull is on your website, and the Skookumchuck.
Skookumchuck.
There you go.
Yeah, Skookumchuck's pretty cool little piece of water.
It sounded amazing. Can you tell us about some of these other fisheries you guys hit?
Sure. Our primary fishery is the St. Mary. We call her the little sister to the elk. The elk has gotten a lot of press over all the years.
Yeah.
Outstanding piece of water, but it follows the highway for effectively 60 miles. It's about the size of the Big Hole. It's the size of the Yellowstone outside of the park.
Okay.
It's a good sized river, beautiful fishing, huge cutthroat population. So outstanding West Slope cutthroat fishing, good bull trout population, and it deserves its kudos. It's as good as, but it's the busiest river in our valley. Its sister river is the St. Mary that flows more closer to Kimberley, BC, and it flows down past Cranbrook, BC, and flows into the Kootenay River. Columbia or the St. Mary is a quiet little sleeper. It's
Yeah.
yeah, she's a fast, tumbly little stream, probably about 2/3 the size of the elk. Fish population is a little bit less, but it has some hybridized rainbows and cutbows along with West Slope cutthroats and bull trout as well. Its weakness is it has all private land around it. So that's good and bad. Access is really hard if you own a boat, but walking and wading is outstanding. But our guide service has made relationships with the landowners, and we've broken it up into 4 sections. And
Okay.
so we fish it a lot.
Yeah, what are the public access laws in BC?
Same as Montana.
Oh, good.
The real difference of coming to British Columbia, and this one's going to be a bit of a shocker for your listenership. So we're the last bastion of the single fly. The whole province of British Columbia is a single fly zone. You cannot use droppers. You cannot use 2-fly rigs of any kind.
What? How did that happen?
Well, in the 1950s, guys were steelheading and they were running multiple fly rigs. And the regional managers over on the steelhead water said, nope, we're not going to do this anymore. And they banned it. And that regulation has stuck. And I'm going to be honest with you, we love it. We
Dude,
absolutely
why?
love it.
Why do you love it?
2 things. We've noticed that there definitely is a relationship, 100%. When water is fished over where you have 2 fly rigs, the fish start to recognize it.
Interesting.
And it makes your fishery definitely harder. Our water is still relatively simple. Like if we rated it out of 10, it's probably a 3 out of 10 in technical difficulty. Not the Columbia, but now this makes the Columbia doubly more hard. It makes it more challenging. And so that's part of the allure of the Columbia is its challenges. I mean, if the Columbia had a bunch of 12 to 14-inch fish, probably no one would bother with it.
Right.
But because it's got some 25 to 28-inch fire-breathing dragons in there, yeah, it's getting a little notoriety, right? So
a little bit.
But the cutthroat water you can fish. If you talk to our guides that are out today, I can guarantee you they didn't put a nymph on. They never have to.
Yeah.
Slope cutthroats will eat a dry every day, all day. Doesn't matter.
They like to look up, don't they?
Right on top. Love it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to back you up for a second.
Go ahead.
The 2 fish get used to seeing 2-fly rigs. Is that something you saw down in the States?
Yes. And where I saw it the most was the San Juan River in New Mexico. I've never seen anything like it. The relationship of the fly to each other started becoming so acute down there. Many of the guides on the San Juan now fish a single fly. And they won't talk about it, but they do. And the reason they do is because of that relationship that the fish they've targeted. I have clients from Colorado said the same thing. They've had a lot of them go back. I have a great friend and client, Mike Murphy. There's lots of Mike Murphys, but he's probably the coolest dude you've ever seen. Big ex-football player and one hell of a fly fisherman. And he's a single fly guy because he's spent 26 years probably of fishing with me, and it just works. It really works.
It is kind of nice to simplify every now and then.
Well, the game is it forces you to your skill sets to work on your skill sets. And that's one of the things I've always been a proponent of is fly anglers get in habits that they get sloppy in the way they think about their fishing. They may be successful because of the rigs they can run, but you start losing what the art of fly fishing is. And that's learning your skill sets. Your dry fly fishing has a certain skill set. And nymphing has a certain skill set, and streamer fishing has a skill set. And you don't have to be an expert at any of them, but you damn well should know how to do all of them. And you should not be afraid to do one of them to help you become a better angler, right? If you err on the side of nymphing, I mean, I know a bunch of guys, like even if you talk to Devin's a friend of mine. If you talk to Devin Olson, he will tell you if he has the opportunity to fish dry flies, he's fishing dries. And that's just
Is
going to
he
be the
okay?
end of it.
Yeah,
Is he a good check nympher? Yeah, he's world
kind of good.
champion class check nympher
Right.
and Euro nympher. And those, Lance Egan, same thing. Unbelievable skill in both of those. But if you ask them probably what their favorite thing is, they're probably either streamer fishing or they're throwing dries. Most of us are not happy throwing nymphs if we don't have to, but in competition, you kind of have to do that, right?
So do you think in highly pressured waters, like a tip for people out there is just switch to one fly, the fish
Yeah,
are onto you?
100%, especially when presentation becomes a factor. If you've tried all the things, you've already gone down to the smallest tippets, you've tried
Yeah,
everything, stop running a relationship fly. Just start
right.
thinking out more, simplifying the system and running a single rig.
That's sewer and sea. Yeah, I've asked a lot of guides this question. Do you think that the combination of the flies can trigger a strike? They see the hopper, then they see this whatever you've got hanging off behind it, and it triggers a strike because there are two flies. But when a pressured system, maybe it's the opposite. They're onto you.
So on the bow in Calgary, I lived in Calgary for 18 years. I just went to school there and worked
Okay.
there for a long time. And we used to fish the bow all the time, and we used double streamers.
Oh,
Always. We threw double streamers all the time. And the reason we did that is when you're targeting browns don't want to move very easily for a single fly. If they see two of things moving, it's just more opportunity for them. I mean, Kelly Gallup's
yeah.
talked about this before too, as well. But how many guys are comfortable casting two streamers? One streamer
Not many
alone for most guys is a handful. Two is a recipe for interesting times.
tangles.
Well, let's put it
Yeah.
this way. It'll straighten up your casting in the wind. Let's put it that
Yeah. You better slow the cast down,
way.
I'm
You better
guessing.
straighten up your casting
To
and toss two
big,
streamers.
big, huge loop, maybe. Lob it in there.
Yep.
Right?
Well, I'll tell you how evident it is. I got a call from a really good friend, Joe Roeder. You might know that name.
Yeah, I did a show with Joe.
Joe called me up probably last year in the fall, and we had a long conversation. They're actually trying to implement a bill into the state legislature in Washington to actually have the Yakima River banned as a single fly only place. Single fly only.
Banned.
Banning dropping.
Turn it into a single fly
Yep.
only.
They think
He
that
wants that.
because Joe for years has said that it's just making that river so difficult to catch fish in. Guys still do, but their catch rates and numbers are not where they should be at times,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
he thinks there's a very strong relationship with that. And so
Huh.
I just voiced my opinion on it. I know, it's kind of thinking, it's reverse thinking, and it's more an issue about pressure that we're putting on our fisheries.
Yeah.
Like one of the reasons the province of British Columbia implemented the class water system in the East Kootenay water, and the class water system, we could get into that. It's not part of the Columbia River, but it's definitely part of the East Kootenay water. They implemented that system fundamentally to control or slow down the commercial side of the industry because, and many of your guide friends on this will not like to hear this, but this is the truth. In some respects, we're our own worst enemies. We are notorious for we got clients, we're putting them on the water. No matter what, we're putting them on. But if you're limited and you have a set allocation of rod days that you can only apply to, then you're controlled. You got your numbers. So the East
That's
Kootenay
class
water.
water. So the class water system is they're basically limiting the number of people on
Yeah, it
streams.
does. It requires two things. First, the biggest part of it it controls the commercial side. So since 2005 in the class water of the East Kootenays, there has not been another issued rod day for any guiding operation of any kind since 2005. So the allocation of rod days that are issued right now for all of us who guide on the East Kootenay water, that you get your allocation and that's all you get.
That's what you're going to get.
That's what you
Okay.
get. You're effectively limiting your business. Is it a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. But it is, as I get older, it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing because it's made a river like the Elk that would have been, I can't even imagine what the Elk would have looked like if it would have had the same regs that Missouri has,
Yeah, the Missouri. Yeah, with
or the
200
Madison,
boats out there.
Missouri or the
Yeah.
Madison. And I feel sorry for the guides who work on those pieces of water that there isn't better controls in place for them because
Yeah, there's none.
so much density of pressure and it changes the experience to your clients. And the guides are catching fish and still doing well. It's just it changes what the experience of a guided fishing trip is. And so it really comes down to how every person views that experience. Like when a guy decides to go to the Bob Marshall Wilderness and go for float trips in the Bob, he doesn't want to see 15 other boats in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. Let me tell you, plain and simple.
Right.
And so in our water over here, a busy day on the Elk, we'll see, even though it's along the highway and it's got city of Calgary, which is 1.6 million people, live only 3 hours away from it. A busy day is probably 15 boats in one section. But that may be one section. That'd be the busiest day.
No kidding. On the Elk.
Oh, yeah. And the busiest day on the St. Mary, maybe 2 in a section, 2 to 3.
And the St. Mary's doesn't have a road running along it,
No,
which
crosses
helps
it
a
only
little bit.
once. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're spoiled. We're very spoiled.
Yeah. I'm curious, what's the scenery like out here? Are we in the high mountains when you're on the St. Mary's?
We're in the pretty high mountains and we're working into the mountains. The Elk is, I'd have to say Fernie and the whole Elk Valley is probably one of the most I'll tell you what it's like. It's like Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Looks
Oh,
like
really?
Jackson. And the Tetons
It's
in the
beautiful.
background, same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Gorgeous. What about on the Columbia? What's the scenery like there?
Very interesting. The Columbia it's incredibly mountainous, but the mountains aren't as high, but the Columbia River is shockingly low. Its mean elevation at Hugh Keenley Side Dam is only 1,300 feet above sea level.
How much? 15?
1,300.
1,300 above sea level.
It's that low.
Up in BC, it's at 1,300 above
sea level only.
That's it?
That's it.
So it's only going to drop 1,300 feet all the way to the Pacific?
All the way to the Pacific.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Crazy speed, though.
Well, I looked up, where it starts, your peaks are like 9,000, 10,000 feet up there, right?
Well,
where it starts.
Yeah, our peaks are running anywhere from 9 to 10, fewer at 11,000, not that many. But our valley floor in Cranbrook, which is on the lower floor of the Kootenay, is right around 2,600 feet.
Okay.
So the Columbia drainage is all sitting at about 26 to 35 at the base levels, and then it drops. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Real quick, can we hit on the bull and the Skookumchuck? Yeah, I said it wrong.
Bull River. Lots of tiny little cutthroats, considered probably some of the purest strain West Slope cutthroat. They've been isolated since the Ice Age.
Okay.
And since the Missoula floods, I mean, there's books written about the Missoula floods. Since then, that's actually kind of the origins of West Slope cutthroat.
Cool.
Ukahaikas Lewisi Clarkey is what their name is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Okay.
So they've been isolated for a very, very long time. They're not very big. They're a true mountain fish. The elk, the West Slope cutthroats on the Elk are quite large comparison. And on the St. Mary, they're quite large. That's predominantly due to a longer growing season and lower elevation, also more food. They basically have a better growing season and more food availability, where the upper bull, it runs for a long way, almost 80 kilometers, which is about 60 miles of water. Breathtakingly beautiful. High mountain stream, crazy fun to fish.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. You got some walk wade waters mixed in here too,
and that's really the draw. That's the other draw to the East Kootenays is, the big rivers like the St. Mary, the Elk, they draw the lion's share of any of the boat traffic. But rivers and the Kootenay get some boat traffic too. But these small streams that we have flowing in, it's like being around Ennis, Montana. There's so many tiny streams around that are just full of fish and excellent fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds
we have a
me.
bunch of folks that come that's all they fish. Not our guided clients. We have clients that maybe fish a day or two. That's what lends itself to the East Kootenays. A person can come to the East Kootenays. You could come for a week, and I recommend doing it this way. Get guided a couple days and then spend some time on your own and fish. You'll have a
Yeah.
ball.
Explore.
Explore. You'll have a ball. All the shops are great. Everybody will help you. We're all pretty good about that stuff, and we're spoiled. We
Okay.
have a lot of water, so we don't have to have a bunch of trade secrets going on.
You can send people to some good spots then.
Yeah, we do it every day. Today I sent
That's
some
awesome.
guys to a couple little streams that are just fantastic.
Yeah. That sounds great. That's exactly what I do. I was just in Colorado. I fished with a guide for 2 days and 3 days on my own. And we went into a fly shop that really dialed us in. I don't know why. They just, because that does not always happen on these busier waters down
And
here.
for our industry, I'm a shop owner too. I vowed a long, long time ago that, I'd never wanted our shop to have that. I wanted it
Yeah.
always to be a friendly place where a guy, I don't care if guys bring spinning rods in for me to fix the tips on them and that, and I still do it.
Do
So I
they?
don't care. I really don't care. I
Yeah.
mean, if that's the way that kids get out on the water, why not run a single fly on a spinning rod, right? It's
Yeah.
At least it gets them out. They'll switch to a fly sooner or later.
Eventually you'll get them.
They always do.
All right. So I read this on your website. It said that Kelly has worked hard to develop his skill set both as a fisher and as a communicator and an instructor. And so I'm wondering, what have you learned over your 31 years of guiding and how to communicate? Because I find I was just with some new anglers yesterday and the day before, and I could see what they're doing wrong, but I didn't know how to tell them to fix it. Right? Like, what have you learned about communicating that helps people get better quicker?
Well, understanding how people learn is probably more important. And when I was living in Calgary, I was working in a job where I was a senior manager for a division of the government, and I took some classes in psychology, and it was actually astounding how people actually learn, and not just anything, learning anything. Women, best way I put it, women are highly auditory, men are visual. And that's if you as a guide haven't figured that out yet, you definitely need to, because you know if you talk to all our guides, they'll tell you they absolutely love guiding girls, because
If you can
women
tell them what to do.
women will take instruction if you give them constructive instruction, and they will follow it to the T. Men, on the other hand, if you're talking to them, and I'm guilty of this, I know me, I need to visually see it. And like, I love watching guys cast when they cast well, but I've seen just about every form. After 31 years of guiding, I've seen just about every form of casting a human being can do, and how many things you can do with a fly rod that are not the right things to do.
Good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, it's the good, bad, and the ugly. And I mean, what you do as a guide is it's a lot like golf. I've always equated it to golf. If you go to a golf pro and you're a bogey golfer, you don't want to go to a golf pro. You want to take a lesson. He can give you the tips, but if he'll tear your golf swing down to bare nothing, you'll be lucky if you can hit the damn ball next time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's why I quit playing golf.
Whereas fly fishing as a guide, when you're out on the water with folks, the objective isn't to tear down their fishing. It's to make them
Yeah.
have a great time while they're fishing. If that means you got to move the boat a little bit closer and you're going to spook some fish, you're still going to catch some.
Yeah.
But I'm spoiled. I guide on cutthroat water, but the Columbia is really tough. It's a tough piece of water. So
Yeah.
when I guide over there, it's a different animal, and we qualify our clients on the Columbia. I really
do
do.
you?
Yeah, we have to. It's not an easy piece of water, and it humbles even the best of guys. And so it's one of those places that, do I guide the odd beginner? Yes. And do we catch fish? Yeah, we catch a few, but it gets challenging, right?
Yeah.
Best tip I can always give to anyone is if you're a good guide, if it's bad enough, you'll park the boat, get them on a bank, and get them practicing with a couple easy, simple casts and learn to work inside of their skill set. You have to always guide to the weakest angler. You can't guide to the strongest
In your boat.
in your boat.
Yeah.
If you guide to your strongest angler in your boat, you're going to do your clients a disservice. You really are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because the guy, right. So with men, if they're visual, do you grab the rod and say, "Let me show you,"
never,
and do it for them, or you don't?
never.
So how do you if they're visual, how do you do that?
I'll grab their hand.
Grab their hand. Okay.
I get a little handsy, you could say,
Yeah.
Steve. And they don't like it very often sometimes,
Yeah. It's
but
like, what's this guy touching
I've
me
grabbed
for?
the hands of some 280-pound, 6'5" guys before and tell them but I'm usually with men, I'm pretty blunt. I'm an old guide, so I'm pretty blunt. And I'll tell them straight that if you're not casting right, we're going to fix this before we go any further. Or at least get you to the point and I'll explain that. I tell them exactly what they have to do. We got to get you to the point that you can actually start catching fish. Once they're at that point, I really don't want to mess with it from that on point because, every guide always has to look at a day on the water. It's somebody's holiday. It isn't your day of work. It's somebody's holiday. And they're spending a lot of money. Guided trips are expensive. And they're spending a lot of money to come spend the day with you. All they want to do is just have a great time and fish. So,
right.
That's the objective is to and our guides are all trained that way, is that this is not just about them going out and making a living. It's about you've got people in your boat every day who are on a holiday and they just want to have a great time on the water. Sometimes you can't catch as many fish as you'd like, but that's okay. I guide over on the water. We guide here in the East Keys. We guide over cutthroats, probably the most aggressive species known to man.
Yeah, if you put a bug over them,
well, they'll bypass an empty to dry fly.
Yeah,
I've watched it happen over and over and over again. So
I love those.
They're wonderful species, especially for beginners.
Kelly, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in two places. I grew up in Rosslyn, BC, which is right beside the Columbia. And that's where I grew up till I was 9. And then I moved to Pincher Creek, Alberta, and grew up in southern Alberta for my high school years.
Huh. What was that like?
Well, if anybody knows about southern Alberta, Wyoming doesn't have anything on the wind that southern Alberta has.
Interesting.
So you learn in living in southern Alberta, I learned to cast a fly rod. So
is that right? You learned to cast a fly rod early, huh?
Yeah, I started casting a fly rod when I was how old was I? Probably 11. I got my first fly rod when I was 11. And then I carried around 2 rods. I carried a spinner rod and a fly rod around until I was down near 14.
Couldn't decide.
And I just started realizing I was getting good enough with the fly rod that I could nix this. I didn't like the spinning rod anyway, so I just found I got better with the fly rod and started.
So you grew up catching trout?
Oh yeah, my whole life.
Holy smokes! I grew up catching carp.
Yeah, if you ask my wife, she'll say I was I'm pretty much a classic maniac. I was back then. I'm not in full burn. She has a name for it. She calls it it was his full burn years when you couldn't get him off the water, and then now she calls it I can actually get him to family events now. So
I thought you might have meant like driving fast and hitting the bars or something. You're talking about just fishing hard. Huh?
Well, I was a young guy at one time too. I did that stuff too, but nothing stopped me from fishing. Really,
we grow and we learn, don't we?
Well, the thing that got me into guiding was I had a great job in Calgary. It's just it was the end of a long run, and I'd been 13 years with the Alberta government as a manager for one of their divisions, and it was getting to the point that I always tell folks. It said that in that video. I said I fished 2 days in 1989. And to me, that you might as well just have hung me. It was over as far as I was concerned. And so I started making a plan and got out in 1992.
Did you?
Yeah.
Started guiding.
Started my guiding business. First name of the company was Columbia River Outfitters, surprisingly.
Good name.
Yep. Started on the Columbia in 92 till 96. And then we moved the company to Kimberley first and
Yeah.
then to Cranbrook and in 1997. And then we've been here ever since. So
Do you remember your first date with your wife?
first date with my wife. I do remember my first date with my wife. I took her fishing.
I think it's in that video.
I took my wife first date on fishing, went down to the Columbia, and she kicked my butt.
She knew what she was doing, huh?
Well, no, she was using the spinning rod on the Columbia.
Oh, geez.
She
Okay.
kicked my butt. So
Yeah.
I had lots to learn. Columbia in the early years was very tough. It was a very tough fishery. And so the fish population in the Columbia has dramatically increased for several reasons. One of the big ones were, and this is jumping back to the Columbia
Yeah.
in the West Kootenays again, why that fishery has gotten so good is the dam, Hugh Keenley Side Dam, was just a water storage facility until 1997. In 97, what happened, they had already been proposing putting hydro generation on Hugh Keenley Side. They didn't know how they were going to do it. So what they did is they were talking about dredging the river. There was huge outcry in Castlegar Trail that nobody was going to touch the river. And so, because the fishing was pretty good still, and they decided they dredged above the dam a 50-foot deep channel, 2 kilometers long. So they dug the head they needed from the reservoir side, and they put the hydro generation beside the dam.
Wow.
So, and they shortened or dropped the spillway, which is where all the water used to come from. They dropped the spillway height to less than 3 meters. So it's not very tall, 4 meters, about 4 meters, but they don't use it. They almost never drop water over it. So if you know anything about, this is more about hydrodynamics. If you know anything about water, actually, sorry, this is more about chemistry, water chemistry. If you drop water that's warm above 50 degrees, 55, almost 60 degrees,
Yeah.
and you drive it into water, it drives nitrogen into the water molecule. And that, in high concentrations, kills juvenile fish. So the lower Columbia, up until 1999, when hydrogeneration started, was a top draw reservoir, and it had a dissolved nitrogen problem. So bigger fish were surviving, but the only fish that could survive in the Columbia were tributary fish would spawn in the tributaries, live there till they were a year or 2 years old, and then move back into the main stem river. When they put hydrogeneration on it, it stopped the dissolved nitrogen. It also did something else. It dropped the ambient water temperature by 5 degrees C across the board. So anyone who knows anything about a tailwater is, if you can keep the tailwater temperature somewhere between 45 degrees and 55 to 60 degrees, you're pretty much you're right in the wheelhouse of some very, very happy trout.
Absolutely.
So by keeping those water temperatures down and no dissolved nitrogen, there was also something else that happened. And these are the stumbling little mistakes, or not mistakes, but the little lucky things that happened to that tailwater. There was a pulp mill at Castlegar, and in 1996 or 7, I forget the date, was purchased by a Japanese consortium that wanted the pulp. They didn't want anything but the pulp, because the pulp that was produced there was some of the highest grade, so for parchment paper in Japan, and that's what they wanted it for. So what they did, they were also very environmentally conscious. So they put a water treatment facility on that pulp mill, of the size of bear's paw in Calgary for the city of Calgary. And they did that in 1997, 98. And so no pulp mat is in the Columbia River. It's gin clear. That's the other thing. So it has
Yeah,
no
cool.
nitrogen entering because of pulp mills. Pulp mills often have a lot of nitrogen and all kinds of other stuff, chemicals that get in. Doesn't happen. They don't dump anything. So it lucky things happened, and Trail Tech Cominco started cleaning up. They were dumping raw slag in the Columbia right up until 1992.
That's a mining company.
Yeah, they were dropping raw slag in the river down by Trail for right until 1992, until the province of British Columbia was fining them so much money they couldn't do it anymore. So
good for them.
They did. They stopped it, and that ended it. That ended that. Just a change in the whole thought process around how we control that water. And it wasn't really designed around taking care of the trout. Oh, it's only been in the last 10 or 15 years where they've really had a consideration for the fish that live there. And that was all really started in 92 when they started doing sturgeon study work. Sturgeon sort of saved the Columbia, that portion of the Columbia, because that tailwater started. They discovered they only had about 1,100 mature fish left, and they were listed in Canada. They were a listed species, so there was all kinds of federal money available and provincial money for doing study work. So they closed the sturgeon fishery in 1994, and it was great. They still do study work. I see the study boats all the time, studying sturgeon all the time. So it's cool.
So the trout population took off after all these changes then?
Oh, good Lord. Been in the last 15 years, it's actually shocking. And so what's happened because of that increase, the average size of the fish has come down. I've noticed it over the years. And maybe some of the local guys wouldn't have, but I've noticed it. We catch more 17 to 20 inch fish than we used to, but our catch rates are dramatically higher. Like much higher. Yeah. So it's more an issue of population. If your trout populations are very high, you're going to have, and I get asked that question all the time too. I get questioned, how many fish per mile do you think are in that river?
Do they know?
Oh, no, good Lord. You can't swim it. You can't. How the hell?
Can't electric shock it.
How goodness sake would you electric shock a river that big? You can't do that. I mean, you can make estimates. I mean, it fishes like a river. I'm guessing. This would be a total guess. Some guys will be screaming at me. I could just hear it next. But probably fishes like a river that has 2,000 to 4,000 fish a mile. Kind of what it fishes like. If you know what you're doing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, Kelly. Since you built this fly shop and guiding business from scratch, correct?
Yeah, correctly. Yeah.
So what was the hardest thing about that? Like maybe the number one obstacle that you ran into?
Government.
Really?
Getting in my way. Just constantly, still to this day, getting in your way.
Say more about that.
100%.
Like regulations or just what, permits?
Yeah, and some of that reg was good, like the class water system regulations. I have no problem with it, but some of the redundant paperwork we do and some of the things we do for government is just, but it's the nature of British Columbia. Province of British Columbia is that way. Oh yeah, it's like Washington State. So
it sounds like they preserved a pretty nice fishery, though.
They did some things that, and I'm going to give them credit for where credit is due, and most people wouldn't, but I'm going to give them credit. They, through some blundering errors and some, they've gotten lucky in some stuff, and they won't admit it, but they have, and they've done some good biology. There have been some really good fisheries bios who understood that aspect of it. Always guys that were fishermen, though. I will say that. Best fisheries bios in the world are the guys who fish.
No kidding.
If you're a fisheries bio and you don't fish, I just don't even have a word for that. I'm sorry.
Right. You've been at this a long time, and you've had a long career in this industry. What surprised you the most about your fly fishing career journey?
How long it took. How long it took.
To do what?
Well, if you talk to a guy like Mike Lawson, Mike's a good friend, and he'll.
Is he? Oh,
yeah, they're good for Jack Dennis. They're good friends.
Oh, I'm interviewing Jack in a couple of weeks.
I was a young man. Jack Dennis Jack probably is single-handedly responsible for helping me with my career. He really did. Yeah, he really helped me. And at the trade shows, another really, really good friend of mine is Jeff Courier. Him and Jeff and I go way back. So really fun. Get to go fish with him this year. First time ever. I'm so excited.
Is that right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm talking to Jack Den. I talked to him about a month ago, and we've got a show scheduled coming up here. So
he's a great guy, and he's an absolutely fantastic ambassador for our sport, and he really has been for a long, long time. I think the world of him, and he's a great guy. Really is.
How about that, man? All right, I got to ask you the food questions at the end. Your favorite shore lunch?
Favorite shore lunch? The ones we make.
What are they?
We do homemade fried chicken, beautiful pasta salad my wife makes, and her homemade cupcakes, carrot cake cupcakes. Oh my God. They've got a reputation, man.
Is that right?
Oh,
People come back for those, huh?
Oh, you ask our clients, they'll tell you.
The cupcakes. Even a guy will eat a cupcake on a trout stream, huh? That's going to happen.
Yes, he will. Trust me, he will eat them.
Favorite place to grab something at the end of the day? Where do you tell your clients to go?
Well, if I'm on the Columbia, the favorite place would be the restaurant called Gabriella's. There's a lounge at Gabriella's in Rosslyn, BC. Unbelievable food.
Yeah?
Off the charts, good food.
Okay. Very good.
And in the East Kootenay, what about the East Kootenay? East Kootenay, probably a place called The Hideout in Cranbrook. Fantastic place to eat too.
How about that? How do people get to where you are? Where does the plane land?
Probably the easiest way is either fly to Calgary. If you want to fly into Canada, fly to Calgary. We get quite a few people flying to Calgary, fish a day or two on the bow in Calgary, and then come on over to either Cranbrook or Fernie, and we guide them then from either town.
Okay, interesting.
Or a closer place is Kalispell. Kalispell, Montana is only about an hour and a half away.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep, Kalispell's an hour and a half away. We're straight north of it.
Do you have a lot of grizzly bears up there in your neck of the woods?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Gotta look out for those guys. Huh?
Just in the fall. In the summer, it's too warm, and they don't hang out in the lower valley. But in September, there's some big shaggies running around.
Love it. Kelly, thanks for being on the show. It was great having you.
Well, thanks, Steve. It was a great ride.
How can people get in touch with you?
Call me. I'm on the website, stmaryangler.com, stmaryangler.com, and we have the easiest 1-800 number in the planet, 1-800-667-2311.
2311. There you go. Kelly, wish you extraordinary success in all your adventures to follow. And folks, thank you for listening to another episode of The Destination Angler. We'll post Kelly's contact info on the Destination Angler website, and we've got some pictures he sent me. Put those out on Facebook and Instagram. You can DM me or email me with comments and suggestions at shay@destinationanglerpodcast.com. Hey, if you like the show, please share it with a buddy. As always, our music is by our Brothers Fountain. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you again soon. Tight lines, everybody.
Well, I'll go from the land to the shining sea. But I know there's more to life than what the eye can see.